Our voters also.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. We're going to talk about Election Day morning. Here we go. Okay. All right. So what we're going to talk about in today's webinar is early setup, the oath of office and payroll page, the quick setup guide, the signage, posting inside and outside signs, JBC setup and opening the polls, and processing voters. Okay, all right. All right, so for early setup, the first thing we always encourage you to do is to do early setup the night before, if that's a possibility at your polling site. Some of them it's not, such as fire stations, things like that. So you want to check and make sure, see if that's a possibility, because that's a huge time saver on election morning if you're able to do the setup the night before. And what we're going to ask you to do is if you go to your training manual, which you can look up online also, or if you get one in class, page 37, you can look up the process of setting up the e-booth. Are both of you returning?
Yes, I was there in June.
Okay, great. How about you, Carol?
I have not done a polling place before. I've only worked at the ROV.
Oh, okay, great. Now, Carol, are you going to be a clerk or an inspector?
I don't know. I haven't received any information on that.
Okay, so you're still waiting to find out. Okay, well, are you going to be in a class, or are you going to take the online tutorial?
I have been set up to take a tutorial because I didn't know that there were any classes available.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well,
the tutorial is probably the easiest way to go if you're going to be a clerk. If they do promote you to inspector, you'll have to go to inspector training, however.
Okay. Well, I signed up to do whatever you needed me to do.
Perfect.
So wherever I end up, I assume I need to be trained somehow.
Yeah, the tutorial is it's comprehensive. It gives you a good overview of everything, and then if you don't feel comfortable, you still have some more questions. We have poll worker practices available where you can get some hands-on and talk to a trainer in person.
Okay.
Okay, great. And Andrew, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, what are you going to be, a clerk or an inspector?
Clerk.
A clerk, okay. But you've done it before, so you know how to set up the booths, right?
Yes.
Okay. Were you able to do early setup last time?
I set up a few of the electronic booths. There were many steps involved. If I go there again, I may be a little rusty for the first one, but then the second and third one, I should do better.
Right, exactly. It's like riding a bike. Once you start clicking everything into place, you'll be fine. And also, both of you, if you have any questions, throughout, please just, jump in and ask. All right? So, at any time. Okay, so you're going to follow the instructions on page 37 to set up the booths. And basically, it's just a button and lock system. There's little metal buttons that you're going to press in. You're going to spread the legs, click them, lock them into place. There's leg attachments and then feet that hold the booth up. The most important thing is to make sure that they're locked into place with those buttons. And there's arrows, and there's actually instructions on the e-booth themselves. There's a little white sign on part of the leg that gives you step-by-step instructions also. And, again, it's also in your manual. So,
Is it pretty much the same as taking them down? Because I did that with early voter a couple years ago.
oh, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, setting it up actually easier. Sometimes taking down, people aren't sure where to put the pieces. If you master taking them down, you'll be fine.
Or which cord to take off first.
Right, and all of that is in your manual, and at the polling site, you're going to get a quick setup guide that has all that information also. So you have a lot of resources.
Yes.
So just so that so you don't worry about it. You're going to have lots of resources, lots of ways to get the information that you need, okay? All right, so when we're doing early setup,
I learned not to worry about it because you guys always take care of us when we call you anyway.
Great. That's good to hear. Okay, so when we're doing early setup, basically the only thing you can do is set up the e-booths. We're going to ask you to daisy chain the e-booths together. And what you're doing with that is taking the gray data cable out of the storage compartment on each e-booth, and you're going to daisy chain. For example, the gray data cord from booth 1, you're going to attach to the back of booth 2. The gray data cable from booth 2 is going to be attached to the back of booth 3, etc., all the way down to the last booth. And the last booth will have the word last on it. It's going to be a Dow e-booth. And that one is not going to have a gray data cable in it, so that's how you know, or you want to make sure that one's at the end of your line, and then that's the one that's it's going to stop, so you won't be able to place another booth behind that because there will be no gray data cable in there. Okay? And just as a reminder that you're both probably going to be clerks, but your inspector should not be bringing your JBC to early setup. That's only for election morning. So if you see it, you need to let them know they need to take it back to their car and not have that in the polling place until election day. Okay?
Or the paper ballots.
Right, or paper ballots. Yeah, basically we'll go through that. The signs are coming up. All right, and we're also going to ask you, each polling place is going to be delivered 3 cardboard booths. We're going to ask you to set up those 3 cardboard booths, and one of them, we need it to be ADA compliant. And there's only 2 levels to set it up. One is a little higher than the other. So the ADA compliant is the lower level. And that's basically so someone can sit at a chair and write in that booth, or a wheelchair, whatever they need. Okay?
Okay, so when you actually do arrive on election morning, one of the first things you want to do, if not the first, because you want to get your stipend, is to make sure you open up the pink combined roster index. And inside you'll see a big stop sign that says attention poll workers, and that is telling you about payroll. You guys have both worked before, so I'm sure you signed the payroll, right?
Right.
And that is very important because we want to make sure you get your stipend. And if we don't, when we have volunteers that don't sign the payroll, I mean, we have to investigate it, make phone calls, make sure people were there, and it actually can delay your stipend, okay? The inspector will then administer the oath of office, and then one of you needs to administer the oath to the inspector. All of the language is there on the payroll page, so it's easy just to read it and have them take the oath, and you take the oath as well.
There would have to be 2 oaths altogether.
Well, yeah, the inspector can do it for all the clerks, and one of the clerks can do it for the inspector.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a piece of cake. The oath of office and payroll page, there's a page in your manual on page 28 as well. And I don't know if Kelly already said this, I apologize, but the inspectors who will go to class will have a manual, and they are instructed to bring their manual with them. So even if you guys are looking online on it, the inspector should have theirs with them, and your coordinator will also have one. So if you ever need to refer to that, okay?
Okay.
Oh, one more thing. Make sure each poll worker signs the page and verifies that your address is correct. That's the other part of getting the payroll. A lot of times people change their address midstream in the whole volunteer process, and their check is delayed because it goes to their former address.
Okay.
Okay, so then I told you about the quick setup guide. I don't know if you used this, Andrew, last time, but it is a great resource for your polling site. The front of it is a quick setup guide. It breaks it down into 3, so you can assign tasks to several different people for early, to get everything done, and so that you're ready to go way before 7 a.m. And we tell you to use it. You'll see a picture of it in the manual also, or you can look at it online in the manual. But it's a little poster, and the front is the quick setup guide. If you turn it over in the back, it's the quick takedown guide for when you're closing the polls. And it's not anything you need to hang in the polling place. It's just for you as poll workers to use. But it's a great resource. It just really breaks it down how to put in the JBC, get it set up and open it, ready for the voters, where to put signs, the rosters, everything. So it's a great tool. We want to make sure you use that on election morning.
Okay, so one of the other first things you do when you get there is to post your signs. There's numerous signs that go inside, and there's also ones that are specific for the outside. So inside you'll have your precinct map, and you'll have a consolidated poster. It's that really big one that's all folded together. We've consolidated a bunch of signs in there to kind of make it easier for you. And then on the outside, you'll get 5 copies of the Voter Bill of Rights. They're about 8.5 by 11, maybe a little bigger. It says Voter Bill of Rights right across the top, and they're in all 5 languages that we cover. So you want to make sure those are displayed outside. And then the other ones that go outside would be your polling place 100-foot sign. So you want to kind of just pace out 100 feet and make sure you post that so nobody is electioneering inside that 100 feet. Your vote signs, your directional vote signs with the arrows showing them where to go and how to get into the site. Sometimes, I don't know where you guys are working, but sometimes as you can imagine it's difficult to find, so you want to really use those signs strategically to make sure that it's clear where to go. And we also have handicapped access signs as well.
All right, so let's talk about setting up your JBC on election morning. Of course, this is the first time the inspector should have brought that to the polling site. The first important part of that is to verify all the tamper evidence seals and sign the chain of custody document for the first time in the morning. You're going to, there's going to be blue seals, which you're going to remove. Any blue seal, all but one in all of our equipment, you remove in the morning before you set up the equipment. You're going to put it on the back of the chain of custody document that's appropriate. So if you're setting up the JBC and you're taking off a blue seal, you're going to put that on the back of the JBC chain of custody document. And we're going to ask you to leave that chain of custody document with the JBC, just stick it underneath, because that's going to need to be, the seals are going to need to be verified 4 times on election day. Once in the morning, roughly lunchtime, dinner time, and then when the polls close at night, okay? So with the JBC, you're going to do all your plug-ins from left to right. The first one is going to be the gray data cable, and that you're going to plug into the back of the JBC and then attach that to your very first e-booth closest to the JBC, which is going to be your first e-booth, and that is going to complete your daisy chain. The second is going to be the black power cord, which you're going to plug in the back of the JBC and then into one of the power strips. You want to make sure your electrical power goes on before you plug in the battery key, which is the final part of it. We want to make sure we have electrical power. The battery key charges the JBC as long as it's plugged into a wall. And just in case you lose power, you'll still be able to vote for maybe an hour or so, depending on how busy your polling site is. The JBC is what actually powers the e-slates. So that's why you want to make sure that the electrical power is plugged in and that it's okay. Make sure your battery key is plugged in also.
What did you say about which one needs to be plugged in? I know you said that the one cord goes to the first booth and the second cord goes to the JBC before it's plugged into the wall or after plugged into the wall?
You know, Carol, when you're able to look at the webinar PowerPoint, you'll see that we have a picture of it, and basically there's 3 ports right next to each other. In the morning, we ask you to plug everything in left to right, which starts with the gray data cable, which goes to the back of the first e-booth, and that's what completes your daisy chain. The second is your electrical, your black power cord, and then the third is the battery key.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so then once everything's plugged in, then you're going to go ahead and verify on the screen of the JBC. Like I was just saying, you want to make sure that the AC, which is the electricity, make sure that's okay. And then it says BATT, which stands for battery. We want that to also say okay. And that way we know everything is plugged in appropriately and that we're not going to lose power after an hour or two once the polling place is open. So those both need to say okay, and that's on the very bottom of the JBC screen, along with what we call a pub count. It's PUB. It stands for publicly used ballots. And because you're doing this at 6 o'clock in the morning and nobody's voted yet, that should say 0. Should be, I think, about 6 zeros in that. And if that JBC says anything but 0 for the pub count, you would need to call the ROV office right away and let us know so we can bring you a new JBC, because you're not going to be able to use that for Election Day. Okay? Okay, so once you verify all that, you need to assign your e-booth. You're going to start with the one closest to the JBC as number 1, and you're just going to go down the line, and basically all you do is press enter on each e-slate, and that will assign that booth a number. Once you're finished with that, you're going to print your 0 tape on your JBC. We want you to leave that attached because that's going to be for the first voter to verify when they come in. And then finally, after that, you're going to open the polls on your JBC. Now, ideally, it'll be about 6:15 in the morning. So even though the polls don't open to the public until 7 a.m., we do want you to go ahead and open them on the JBC right away so that we can make sure all your equipment's up and running, so that as soon as it's 7 a.m., your voters can come in and start voting, and that you won't have any equipment problems. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, so next you want to get that pink combined roster index out, and you want to fill out the ballot statement. And with that, you're recording on the top there, and it's very self-explanatory. There's a line, there's about 15 or 16 lines that tells you exactly what to do. But the first 2 you need to fill out in the morning is the paper ballot count, which is given to you in your stack of paper ballots in the supply box, and the pub count that Kelly was just talking about that's on the JBC. It's on the bottom of the screen there on the JBC, real easy to see. It'll be all zeros, like she said. If not, then you'll be calling our number anyway. And so you'll enter the zeros and the number of paper ballots up there. It's on the top of the combined roster index, real easy to find.
Right. It's actually on the top left, and it says electronic, and then in parentheses JBC. Ballot count. And then remember the paper ballot count, your inspector should have done that before Election Day, but just in case, you want to make sure that there is a number filled out for the number of paper ballots delivered to your polling site.
Okay, so when the first voter comes in, you want to make sure that they verify the 0 tape that you printed out on the JBC, which is still connected, is verified that it in fact says 0. That there are no votes on there, and the voter and the inspector will sign that tape before they remove it and put it in an envelope. The other thing you want to do is have that voter verify that the ballot box is empty. So what was your supply box now becomes your ballot box. They verify it's empty, and then you can seal it.
Okay, so then once all that has been done, we can go ahead and start processing our voters. The very first thing, we like to say there's 3 easy steps. The voter signs in, the voter verifies their address, and then they receive a ballot and vote. So your roster clerk is going to, it's an alphabetical list for our combined roster index, which is the pink roster. It's alphabetical by the voter's last name, so you're able to find them and then ask them to sign on the line that their name is on. And for this election, we're going to ask all our clerks and inspectors to really make sure that the voter is signing on the same line as their name. All right? So whether you need to use your finger to point that out, or I know we give you rulers Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't, but an X mark, something just to make sure that your voter is signing on the proper line, okay? Then they're going to step over to the street index clerk, who's going to have a cross-reference number to locate the voter's address. The street index clerk is going to ask the voter to verify their address. We want to make sure that the voter says the same address that we have listed. If not, they will become a provisional voter. And then the roster clerk is going to be the one filling out the ballot card, and they're going to write the street or the cross-reference number and the precinct number if your polling place has more than one precinct. And then that's what the ballot clerk is going to use to find the appropriate ballot.
Okay, now's the time when we ask if you have any questions. You guys have been pretty good throughout in asking them already, but do you have any other questions about the Election Day morning or anything else involved with volunteering?
Not really.
Okay.
I've done this once, already in June, so I remember some of the procedures, and of course, it was 5 years. I did this in Phoenix, Arizona, so
Oh, great.
there's a whole head of this.
Oh, perfect.
You know what, Andrew? The one thing that's going to be great this time is you don't have to worry about party affiliation.
Right.
So it's going to be a lot easier. The only difference is going to be if your precinct has more than one, if your polling site has more than one precinct in it. But that's it. Other than that, if you survive June, you'll be fine because it's going to be a lot easier.
Yeah, we'll just have one kind of ballot, and that's it.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, there'll be
Yeah,
one per precinct.
There are really only a couple choices, electronic or paper, if they ask for paper, and of course if they're bilingual and they need, or if they're not bilingual and they request a ballot in the paper ballot in a language other than English, then you can give them that too.
Yeah. So a lot easier this time. We're expecting more voters coming in, but you won't have the same, all the different ballots and different parties and everything else. So it'll be a lot easier this time.
Now, is it true that slightly more voters are going to be voting by mail as opposed to showing up in the precinct?
Well, slightly more voters, it's increasing every election for us, the number of people that are voting by mail. We're well over 600,000 of our 1.6 million registered. But what we saw in June was that a lot of people didn't decide who they were going to vote on until the very end, and instead of dropping it in the mail, they dropped them off at the poll site. So you just want to be aware of that a lot of people requested a ballot by mail, but they might still show up at your poll site to drop it off. And these folks do not need, if it's filled out and they just want to drop it off, they hand it to you and you put it in the ballot box, and they don't need to sign the roster. They don't need to wait in line. They can just hand it to you and you can put it in the box.
Just make sure it's signed and dated and signed properly.
Exactly. Excellent point. You got to make sure it's filled out right.
And that it's Orange County.
And that it's Orange County. And the other thing is, filled out right also means that if you're dropping it off for someone else, there's that little box on the side of the envelope that if you're dropping it off for someone, they have to sign it as well. And the rules there are that essentially they're a family member or somebody that lives in the same household that can do that for them.
Could it be a caregiver?
They're living in the same.
If they're living in the same household, yes.
Okay.
And it's not a whole lot you can do to verify that, but you can make sure, other than making sure that they sign that box. So you're not going to ask them for ID and to prove it or anything, but it does need to be filled out.
Okay. When you said that they don't have to stand in line, how do people know that if they're just dropping off a ballot and there's a long line?
The voter might not necessarily know that, but if you guys can keep your eyes open and you see somebody with a vote-by-mail ballot, you can ask them, is it voted, and you just want to drop it off? And if they say yes, you can just, reach for it and have them hand it to you. And so just try to help them out.
And you know what, Carol, we also train the inspector.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. We also train the inspectors, too, that if they do have any type of line at all, to specifically go down the line and ask anyone if they are just dropping off a vote-by-mail ballot. So that's part of their training, too. And obviously, you as clerks can do the same thing, but they are taught that if there is any line at all, to make sure that nobody standing there is actually just there to drop off a vote-by-mail ballot.
Oh, okay, because I'm one of those notorious for dropping mine off at the booth, at the ballot polling place.
Right.
And I haven't noticed that anybody would notice my CVM and ask me if I just wanted to turn it in. So,
Right.
It's a good thing to see.
Right, so now you know you don't have to wait in line, but if you're actually working the polling place also, like I said, the inspectors are trained to do that, but you as clerks can also do that. Anytime you have, more than one person in line, go ahead and ask them if they're dropping off a vote by mail, and they can just walk right over to the ballot clerk, and the ballot clerk will verify that it's signed, sealed, and that it's Orange County, and then they will put it in the ballot box for the voter.
Okay. I had one other question, too. I'm sure I have more, but on the signs that we put out for, the vote signs,
Right.
the directional signs, is there some kind of rule about how far away those should be, or how, if we're a large campus, do you get more signs? So we put them out on the street and then close them in?
We do ask the inspectors if they think that they need more to request them, and what they do when they pick up their supplies on distribution day, we have extra signs there, and when they ask, we give it to them. It's not something that's automatic or precinct specific set up when we do our pack out for everybody, but the other thing is that extra signs are out on the street, so if you think you need some, you can call the tech support line at 714-954-1901, and that number will be everywhere for you on election day. You can call them and say, I think we need more signs, and the coordinator can come out, a rapid deployment team can come out. They'll be supplied with all kinds of things, including signs, if you think you need more. But it's absolutely true. I mean, sometimes we're in schools and we're all the way down the hallway, and of course you have to have signs going from the street all the way pointing to the right door, because there could be 100 doors. So, we just need people to use their common sense. And if you were the voter, how would I see this visually and get there?
Okay.
And Carol, there's no rule about how far or how many, except for the 100-foot sign, which is basically the 100-foot zone for electioneering. So you're going to get one sign that says voting 100 feet, and that one we don't give you any way to measure that. So you basically, I think it's 33 to 36 big steps is roughly 100 feet, and so that's the sign you do want to put out. That's kind of like our 100-foot zone, so that no electioneering happens within that area of your polling place.
Right.
And that's
including T-shirts that are voting for a certain person.
Yes, ma'am. T-shirts, hats, pins, conversations, anything like that. So that is the only sign that has, the 100-foot rule with that one. Everything else, like Brett said, it's just if you were the voter pulling up, would you be able to find the polling site with the signs that you have out? You know what I mean? You want to make sure that if somebody's driving by or somebody's looking for where they're supposed to be voting, that they're going to be able to find the signs and get to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's it. The 100-foot sign's the only one with any specific requirement.
So that when you're, the people that the 100-foot is important to are those who are electioneering. And if it were more than 100 feet, there could be a conflict. Is that what you're saying?
Right. The no electioneering zone means that you cannot have any, like I said, conversations, T-shirts, pins, hats, anything like that, signs happening within 100 feet of a polling place. So it's a guide for you as the poll workers and also for anyone else that might be enticed to do something like that, you can just show them, you have to be 100 feet away from the polling site to do anything like that. It needs to be outside and 100 feet away. They can't be within 100 feet, so that when people are in your polling place voting, they're not hearing those conversations or seeing the signs. It's part of voter intimidation.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to keep your polling site free of any conflicts or discussions or anything like that.
Right. I had to offer somebody a sweater one time during early voting so she could cover her shirt.
Right. And that's another thing we tell the inspectors to do, that if they have like a big sweatshirt or T-shirt or something, we ask them to bring it and just have it. Obviously, if it's a hat or a pin or a discussion, that's easy to take care of. But if it's a shirt, especially if it's a lady, you can't ask them to take it off or whatever. So, if they have a big sweatshirt or a T-shirt or something that they can just put over while they're in the polling place, that's fine.
Okay.
Anything else?
Not me.
I'm good.
Okay, would you two, either one of you, want us to send you this PowerPoint presentation?
Yep. I think
Yes, please.
Okay, can you give me your email address? Andrew, you want to go first?
Andrew, P as in Paul, G as in good, 1 at att.net. So it should be AndrewPG1 at att.net.
Okay, got it. How about you, Carol?
D-C-COLE at sbcglobal.net.
Okay, can you do it D like dog?
Yes. Oh, okay, sorry. D, dog. C, cool, Carol. C-O-L-E. Yes. Sorry, I can't do it. C as in cat, O as in otter, L as in lady, E as in election.
Okay, so I have D like dog,
Yes.
and you said hyphen or slash underscore
Hyphen.
hyphen C-O-L-E.
Sorry about that.
Okay. So it's D hyphen. Now again, D hyphen C hyphen C-O-L-E.
Okay, D hyphen C hyphen B like boy, O-L-E?
C as in cat.
Oh, C Cole, okay. Okay, so DC Cole, right,
Yes.
at sbcglobal.net?
Yes.
Got it. All right. All right, thank you, Carol. Do either one of you have any questions?
Nope.
Anything else? Okay, well, do you have our customer service phone number?
Yes.
Carol?
Yes, I do.
Okay, okay, good. I want to make sure. So if you have any other questions, just give us a call and we'll help you out with anything you need, okay?
Okay, I did have one other question. Is there no early voting this session?
No, there's no early voting. They can come into our office and vote paper, but that's pretty much it.
Okay. Well, is there because they're not expecting that big a turnout?
We haven't been doing it for the last few elections. The number of people that used early voting compared to the percentage of our registration wasn't really high. I don't think the Registrar of Voters has totally killed it, but we haven't been doing it for the last few.
Yeah. Well, it was kind of slow when we were doing it before, but
Right.
interesting. So, okay.
Okay.
I'm good.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a great afternoon.
Okay, you too. Bye.
Bye-bye.